A repo truck took it back in 11 months. Not because the man driving it was reckless. Not because he lost his job. He lost the car because the car was never his to begin with. It belonged to the bank from the first signature, and he was just renting the illusion at 9% interest. We've been conditioned to believe that a $1,000 monthly car payment is the price of entry into the middle class, the toll you pay to look like you've made it. In reality, it's a $1.7 trillion trap that is systematically erasing your chance at becoming a millionaire. Not metaphorically, mathematically. His name was Roger. He drove a Porsche, brand new, financed a windshield, and it worked in the way it was supposed to work. People noticed him. People talked about him. When he pulled into the parking lot, you could feel the room recalibrate around him. He looked like success. A week after the repo truck came, Roger showed up in a 15-year-old Honda. Nobody saw the part that mattered. Nobody posted the tow truck. Nobody talked about the calls from the lender, the missed payments. The moment the bank decided his success story was over, they just saw the Porsche, and then they saw it gone, and then they saw the Honda, and most people assumed he'd simply downgraded. What actually happened is that the illusion expired. The car was never wealth. It was a 4-year-long photograph of wealth. I'm telling you about Roger because his story isn't rare. It's the median story. This isn't a video about hating cars. I drive a car. You probably need a car. This is a video about a heist, a slow, polite, perfectly legal heist that happens in a finance office with a smiling salesperson, and the victim drives away thinking they won. Let's start with how normal this has become. As of the most recent data, just over 1 in 5 new car buyers in America are now paying $1,000 a month or more for their vehicle. 1 in 5. That's not a luxury buyer statistic. That's a regular commuter statistic. A few years ago, that number sat around 15%. Now it's over 20% and it's still climbing. How are people affording this? They're not. They're stretching it. The average new car loan term has crept out to nearly 69 months, almost 6 years of payments on an asset that will be worth half of what you paid for it before the loan is even finished. The dealership calls this getting you into your dream car. I call it payment stretching. It's a magic trick. The salesperson can't change the price of the car, so instead they change the only number you're actually looking at, the monthly payment, by handing you a longer rope to hang yourself with. You feel like you got a deal. You can get a deal. You got a longer leash. And here's the part that should bother you most. None of this is really about the car. Psychologists call it the man in the car paradox. When you see a stranger driving a Ferrari, you don't actually think, that guy is cool. You think, I would look cool in that car. The driver disappears from the thought entirely. You're not admiring him. You're casting yourself in his place, which means the entire value of the car, the thing you are bankrupting your future to finance, is an emotional transaction happening in the mind of a stranger who will forget about it in 4 seconds. You're paying $742 a month on average to briefly exist in someone else's daydream. So let's open a hood on what this actually costs you. Not emotionally, mathematically. The first problem is depreciation, and it's brutal. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses somewhere between 15 and 20% of its value. Not over a year. Instantly, you sign the papers, and you are already underwater. Within 3 years, that car has lost roughly 40% of what you paid for it. You are paying full price every month for an asset that is quietly losing nearly half its value while you're still making payments on the original amount. Then there's what I call the 2025 financing crisis, and the Honda Accord tells the story perfectly. In 2021, a buyer financing a Honda Accord paid around $36,660 total over the life of the loan. Car price, interest, the works. By 2025, for the exact same model, total costs had climbed to around $43,860. Nothing about the car changed. The engine isn't better. The seats aren't nicer. What changed is interest rates, sticker prices, and the third silent partner in every car purchase, insurance. Insurance has gone up roughly 50% in just a few years. Nobody budgets for this. People run the numbers on the loan, feel good about the monthly payment, and then get blindsided by a premium that's nearly doubled. Call it the insurance tax, a cost that rises every single year you own the car, completely disconnected from how well you drive or how little the car is worth. And this is where the real danger shows up, negative equity. Right now, nearly 1 in 4 vehicle trade-ins involve negative equity of $10,000 or more. That means a quarter of people trying to trade in their car don't just get nothing for it. They owe the bank $10,000 or more just to walk away from it. They are, financially speaking, underwater on a sinking asset, and the only way out is to roll that debt into the next loan. That's not a car payment anymore. That's a financial leak with a steering wheel. Here's the principle underneath all of it, and I want you to actually sit with this one. Rich is a current income spent on a car. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the money that hasn't been converted into a depreciating asset yet. Roger looked rich for about 11 months. He was never wealthy for a single day. Now let's talk about where that money actually goes, because this is a section that should change how you drive for the rest of your life. The average car payment in America right now is about $742 a month. Let's not spend it on a car. Let's invest it instead into a simple S&P 500 index fund, averaging a historically reasonable 8 to 10% annual return. Run that's $742 a month for 30 years, and you are looking at a number north of $1.1 million. Some projections, depending on the exact return assumed, push that closer to $1.5 million. That's not a typo, and it's not a fantasy. It's compound interest doing what it always does when you stop interrupting it. This is why the gap between Eric's leased BMW and Modest Dan's used Corolla is never really about $400 a month. It's about a $400 a month decision made consistently for decades that compounds into over $1.4 million in lost retirement wealth across a working lifetime. Eric isn't choosing a car. Eric is choosing every single month to not become a millionaire. And he doesn't know it because nobody ever shows him the 30-year version of his own decision. At year one, that gap barely registers. A few $1,000s, easy to dismiss. By year 10, it's gone from noticeable to life-changing. By year 30, it's not even a competition anymore. This is the part dealerships never show you, because the gap doesn't show up in a showroom. It shows up in a retirement account 3 decades later, when it's far too late to undo the decision. Let's talk about the mug. Picture a plain ceramic mug. As more debt gets poured into car buying across the economy, the car itself doesn't become more valuable. The mug doesn't get bigger. What happens instead is that the purchasing power of your work gets smaller. Every dollar you earn now buys a smaller slice of car than it used to, because everyone around you is financing with longer terms and bigger loans, which pushes prices up for everyone. You're not paying more because cars improved. You're paying more because the entire system collectively agreed to stretch the payment, and stretch payments raise prices for the next buyer too. You are, in a very real sense, financing the inflation of your own trap. So what's the actual fix? I'm not going to tell you to never buy a car, and I'm not going to tell you to buy a beater and suffer. I'm going to give you the gold standard, the rule I use, and the rule I want my own kids to use. I call it the 24-10 rule. Put 20% down. Finance for no more than 4 years, 48 months, not 69. And keep the total payment under 10% of your gross monthly income. That's it. 3 numbers, and they will keep you out of almost every trap we just talked about. Because a 48-month term forces honesty. You can't hide the true price of the car behind a 6-year smokescreen. There's a second number worth knowing, especially if you're buying in cash or with a smaller loan. Keep the purchase price of the car under 25% of your annual income. If you make $60,000 a year, that's a $15,000 ceiling. That number feels low to most people first time they hear it. And that reaction is exactly the conditioning we opened this video talking about. The 25% rule isn't a punishment. It's the actual sweet spot where a car stops being a financial threat and starts being a tool. Last piece, the exit strategy, because how you buy matters less than when you buy. The 3-year sweet spot is the closest thing to a cheat code in this entire conversation. Let someone else absorb that brutal first wave of depreciation. The 15 to 20% that vanishes the moment a car leaves the lot, and the slide toward 40% over those first 3 years. Buy the car right after that curve flattens out, and you get a vehicle that's still got the vast majority of its useful life ahead of it, at a fraction of the original price. You let the first owner pay for the privilege of being first. You pay for the car. And once you own it, don't go silent. Shop your insurance every single year. Get new quotes. Every renewal, no exception. Insurance companies count on loyalty and inertia. They raise your premium quietly each year, betting you won't check. Forcing them into an annual bidding war for your business is one of the easiest, laziest feeling wins in your entire financial life, and almost nobody does it. Here's the truth Roger never got to learn. The Porsche didn't make him successful, and losing it didn't make him a failure. The car was never the measurement. The measurement was always the gap between what you earn and what you don't spend. Quietly, every month, compounding in a direction nobody can see from the parking lot. Drive the Corolla. Invest the difference. Let the gap do the rest.